Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction, slightly delayed instant reaction. We're recording about an hour after the match in comparison to our typical immediate, but midweek matches. Work has to be done. And so we're excited, though, to join you all as we review Lazio's 1-0 derby victory over Roma in the quarterfinal of Coppa Italia. I am your host, Sean McIntosh, joined, as always, by my co-host, Caleb Adams. Caleb, how are we feeling?
I feel great. I'm going to be transparent here. I only was able to catch the first 30 minutes of the match, but the minute I got the notification that we had won, I was ecstatic. I did a little celebration on the spot. So really excited about it, and love having the continued success and domination of Roma over the.
It's been a domination, honestly, since Mourinho has taken the helm at Roma. I had a couple tweets today. Sign this man to a lifetime contract at Roma because it's been hard to find a better run for Lazio against that side than with Mourinho at the helm. So. Let's jump into this. This is a big one, regardless of competition, stage of a competition. The derby is the derby, and both sides know how important it is. I don't care what Mourinho says in any post-match conference, because I'll tell you what, I haven't seen the post-match conference yet, but I'll tell you what he's going to say. This man's the most predictable manager. He's going to come up with any and every excuse. He's going to talk about how this match didn't matter because they've got big Serie A fixtures looming and whatever he wants to feed you. Honestly, the folks that should be most upset at whatever rhetoric he's going to spew are Romanisti, because he's probably going to talk about this wasn't that big of a deal. I'm sorry, it's the derby. We all know this is a big one. This is 3 straight cup losses. 4 straight matches against Lazio in which they failed to even score a goal. So they should be done with excuses from that man. But again, sign him to a lifetime contract. But let's dive into this one. Right off the bat, some interesting notes from the starting 11. Mandas in goal. Provedel sits and takes a break, and that was certainly one that I was astonished by. We have Cataldi in. We talked about this in our last pod that this is the derby. He's a Laziale. He's one that's seen these moments, comfortable in them. I was going to be happy to see him in this. So sits in there. Romagnoli back. He got his few minutes. He got to have his legs under him, and then boom, right into an important match. Pellegrini back to the bench. The assumption here is with Lazzari in there. You wanted Marusic. We talked about the size of Roma. And so, aside from that, it was back to the normal, particularly up top with Felipe at the right wing, Tati in the center, and Zaccagni playing that left wing. Honestly, not a ton that happened in that first half. Very contentious, both sides feeling one another out early into the second half. Tati in the mix earns a penalty. It was not initially called. He's in the box. He gets clipped, and right away they go to VAR, and it was a no-brainer. It was absolutely stone cold penalty. Zaccagni steps up, cool, collected, finishes it. The man loves a derby, scoring in a number of these, and so obviously loved the way he celebrates. But honestly, the match kind of turned on its head after that goal, really giving Lazio life. They came out, and immediately after, Vecino has a massive shot, big opportunity, goes just wide, a couple opportunities following suit, and then the game essentially goes deep into stoppage time, 7 minutes of added time. Few opportunities for Lazio on a counter, but by and large, that stoppage time was Lazio pretty much hanging on tight. Roma with few things organized, if we're honest. Their standard approach of dumping balls in and hoping for the best. And they almost got something out of it with Romelu Lukaku doing really well to chest a ball and attempt a bicycle that cleared just barely over the crossbar. But couple chances, but really when you look at it, Lazio, the team that was deserved of the victory. Possession was 43% Lazio, 57% Roma. Roma failing to do a whole lot of anything, with expected goals at only 0.52 for Roma. Lazio at a 1.76, and total shots squared away at 9, but Lazio was able to get 5 of those on target compared to Roma's 2. Big chances, Lazio 2, one of those being converted. Roma with no big chances. So again, this one was relatively clear. I think Lazio, the deserved team, and once again advancing in this tournament, a tournament in which they've only beaten Roma. So tell me, Caleb, I know you weren't able to watch this one. Do you have 3 words for this? Because I got an easy one, and you don't even have to have watched the match to come up with this.
Look, okay. I don't have 3 words, but I have an action. For those of you that are just listening, I'll explain what my action is, but I'm gonna do the action first.
That's it.
That's
it.
That's it. For those that are just listening, I shushed. I did a little shushing thing that Jose Mourinho does. And just be quiet. That's it.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
Mine is, and that is perfect. Mine, again, don't even have to have watched it. Just look at the score line, and it's becoming routine now. Quite simply, Rome is blue. That's it. Rome is blue. We talked about it. They haven't scored a match against Lazio in 4. We've dominated 3 straight cup appearances against this squad. 3 straight victories. We've won 3 of our last 4. It's been 3 wins, 1 draw in the last 4, 5 wins in the last 8. I mean, we are in a nice time period. Ahead of them in the table since Sarri's been here. It's been domination over Mourinho. So Rome is blue. This one, again, we looked at the numbers. It was clear as day for me. What do you think was some of the keys to the matches? What ultimately sealed this victory for us? What do you think, Caleb?
I didn't watch most of it, but at least from the highlights commentary that I've seen, and as well from seeing this very similar matchup play out in a way that I think it's kind of played out pretty similarly in almost every time we've encountered them, at least under Sarri. I think it honestly goes back to Sarri. I think he's got Jose completely figured out. I think like Jose here in this game in Mourinho, they actually pressed us quite a bit, at least from the 31st 30 minutes. They actually pressed us. They attempted to do that as well in the past, but it really seems to me that Sarri just has Mourinho figured out because they never trouble us. I mean, we play them. It's intense. There's emotions running high, but in terms of actual threat of them scoring, of them winning, we've seen really, really, really minimal of that in this particular showdown between Mourinho and Sarri. And so for me, I think it comes down to Sarri that he's got Mourinho in his pocket.
He absolutely does. And it's another performance in which defensively we've been really sound. We haven't given up anything. I think when I look at how this match was won, it starts with that back line being solidified. And this match has really come down to which side has made the most mistakes. And we've been fortunate, whether it's been Ibanez for so many years, Mancini, typically somebody on the Roma side is making a mistake, and this one to it. And man, if you would have asked me to put money on which side was going to earn a penalty today, it would have been, I would have put money on it that Roma was going to come out of this with some BS penalty. And so just fitting, it feels good to beat them on a penalty because they have been the side to have been rewarded so many dubious pens this year. So look, defensively, we were very good. And then our midfield has been such a big lift when it comes to the defensive work. So many of the matches early in the season, you and I have just were so frustrated at the lack of our midfield really putting in work on the defensive side. And we talked about how much space they would allow players to operate within, and maybe it's just the work that Rovella has put in since his insertion, but obviously the growth of Guendouzi, who again is just a maniac. It's 80th minute plus, and this guy is pressing highs. He's on counters, and besides the work of our defense, it's just such a strong mentality. You could see, I mean, they really came to play. This game means a ton to them. They took it personal, and in the end, they were rewarded for it. So, from some of the match you were able to catch, who stood out for you? Do you feel confident in awarding a man of the match for this?
I don't feel confident in awarding man a match, but I think I do want to stay in the midfield. I think it seems that the defense was stellar, but at the end of the day, from what I saw, the midfield was just really, really active. And I don't know who kind of kept that level throughout the whole match. You can go into more of that, but for me, I think the midfield did play a big role in eliminating Lukaku and Dybalà's influence. I think that we came in, right? Lukaku's physicality. You have Patrick out there, Lazio out there. You're thinking, oh man, like how are they going to fare? But I think the midfield completely bossed the game and allowed those guys to have a little easier job with the guys in front of them. So if you want to go in and talk about the players that shined, please do.
Yeah, and I think, and there were a lot of them that I really liked, but I'm giving my man of the match to Zaccagni. Obviously, he comes away having scored the match-winning goal, with the penalty. But I really loved his mentality. We've talked about him time and time again, and even when he is struggling and not playing up to par, he's a player whose attitude I've fallen in love with. He puts his head down. He continues to attack. He earns so many fouls. He is frustrating the heck out of Roma. I mean, Christensen fouled Zaccagni 135 times. I mean, there was frustration on the side of Roma because he's putting so much pressure down. He's just got such a great turn when he gets the ball and forces you to foul him. And, I think that put Roma on their heels. And, some other players that I think really stood out is Vecino once again, just kind of bossing the midfield. Rovella, the same old work as usual. I mean, Lazzari was really, really good. Felipe Anderson. I mean, they all did their part, and they all were so sound, right? The work rate that they put in. I mentioned Guendouzi just flying up and down the pitch. This is such a likable group of players, like players that are fighting for one another. Even, Pellegrini came in at the end of the match, and he had a couple massive plays. 89th minute, and he comes in with just a big block that looked like it could have been a dangerous ball into the box. 92nd minute, Pedro, a diving tackle. I mean, right? Like the last thing you think about Pedro is any sort of defensive work, and he is diving in, winning tackles. Zaccagni on a number of plays, slide tackling, winning the ball. I mean, 65th minute, he has a diving slide tackle that he wins the ball, and then he's charging up the field like on a break. So it really just was performance and mentality and all of those things that you love to see. And, obviously we want the free flowing, the multiple goal games, but this is just one of those efforts that you can be really proud of the work that everybody did. So, and kind of segueing into our bidone, this was really, really tough. And it's funny, I wrote down who my bidone was, and then this player came up with a big moment in the match. So I actually had the newcomer, the kid in goal, Mandas, as my bidone, and reason why is very early in the match, he has a ball that he just kind of bobbles, and was very fortunate to be bailed out by a whistle. It wasn't honestly, I thought the whistle might have came a little bit too quick, and then there was a moment, some miscommunication where Patrick wanted Mandas to come out and rush the ball and swallow it up, and Mandas didn't. So Patrick was forced to play a ball out that essentially turned it over. There was also a moment in the 64th minute where Mandas plays a ball to Patrick, who is marked by two guys, and Patrick is forced to just one time right back to Mandas, who then has to kind of boot it out, and it was a really testy moment. So you could see the nerves and the lack of experience from Mandas, you know, but then he was called on to essentially preserve this one, and massive double save in the 87th minute. Bellotti has a crack at it. He's forced to make a save. I think there's a slight deflection because Mandas could have done a little bit better, but I think it was deflected to his credit. And then you've got Pellegrini from Roma flying in, but Mandas jumps to block it out and knock it out. So big double save from the kid. Again, preserves this clean sheet and ultimately preserves the victory. So, I have to dub him as my bidone because some of those shaky moments, and I think by and large, everybody else played a really sound match. So, yeah. But positives, Caleb, what are you kind of taking as positives moving forward? Obviously this sees us advancing in this tournament to the semifinals, but we've got Serie A fixtures that are, I don't even want to say arguable, right? I think we would probably, I don't know. I guess I'll ask you, would you rather, here's a would you rather, would you rather win Coppa Italia and come out with a trophy this year, or fight like hell for a Champions League spot? And I don't want to say that Champions League spot is guaranteed, but like you're in the mix. So I'm not even guaranteeing the Champions League spot. I'm saying like we're fighting for it and we have a good chance to finish in top four, or you have a guaranteed trophy. What are you taking?
I mean, I'm prioritizing the league first of all, and then I'm prioritizing Champions League after that, and then everything else. I mean, I don't think there's much value in for right now for us in the current situation that we're in, considering the season we're coming off of. We finished second. We talk about we need to become a team that becomes consistent to be in those those Champions League spots. For example, you talk about teams, particular teams around the world. It's expected that they make Champions League. I would love for Lazio to also reach a level to where people can say, "Oh, like Lazio, like go ahead, pin them in," right? And it starts just getting, back-to-back years doing that. That's how it starts. Then you get 3 years, right? And so I think that would really help a lot with the momentum of the club. And another positive from this game is that, this stretch really for me is that this was like the icing, like this was like the cherry on top. While it wasn't maybe a Champions League spot at the end of the year, it's still sort of validation of the work the team's putting in. It's just more momentum, more fuel to keep igniting this fire and make it 5 in a row next game, right? And to keep that stretch going. So I think a tournament like this could help give us momentum in the league. I think a win like this absolutely can and will. But in terms of prioritizing it to win it, I'm a bit hesitant about.
Yeah, I think I'm aligned. We've talked about this before. For any of our new listeners, your thoughts on Champions League is absolutely spot on. We've said it time and time again. For us to take this next step as a club, we need to be in a world in which we are competing in Champions League year in and year out. The finances are too big of an incentive to throw away, and we just don't make the revenues necessary to compete with some of the biggest clubs in the world. And the revenue and rewards and money that you earn from Champions League is significant, and we're not earning that with any of our domestic cups. So no, I think we have to prioritize that. And look, a trophy is what you play for, and it's significant. So I do think Coppa Italia is important. And certainly when you get to the semis and to the finals, like you want to walk away with a trophy. But we put ourselves in a little bit of a hole in league play. I will say, not only coming away with the victory for this one, obviously you want to beat Roma, you're going to put your best lineup out there, and that is important. But I think for us, what was just as important was some of our key players actually getting some rest. Right, Rovella didn't start this one, and he comes in late, so he should be fresh for this weekend's fixture. You have Zaccagni getting to come off, right? You have Tati getting to come off, and Pellegrini not having started this. Romagnoli obviously should be very well rested. If anything, it's a plus for him getting to get another match under his belt. So, Provedel, obviously, not an issue with rest for him, but got to take a match off. And so I think, Isaacson didn't have to come in until late in the match, so he can be fresh. And we've talked about it. We do see a little bit of depth with this team. Luis Alberto should be back. And if not, we feel confident at least in Vecino, or maybe, God, after the performance Kamada had last match, I'm not sure we want to see him, but he is a player that didn't feature in this, and at the very least can be very well rested. So I think we have an opportunity against Lecce. It should be 3 points, but we're all smart enough to know nothing should be taken for granted. Robbie Cerati has the question here: will Sadi keep us fighting for top 4 spots? I'm glad the question of Sadi has been brought up, and Caleb and I have been very critical of some of Sadi's, whether it's tactics or ability or inability maybe to motivate this side or get the most out of what we felt was a really strong unit. It's time to give him his flowers. It's time to give him a little bit of praise here today. And Caleb mentioned it, right? What he's done against Mourinho in head-to-heads. We've been ahead of Roma in the table every year with Sadi. We've dominated them in derbies, and last year it was a second place finish, and we were pretty disappointed in how things started this year, but we're 3 points out of fourth. So I not only have to believe that he's going to keep us in the fight, but I'm very hopeful that maybe things have turned around with this side with a little bit of consistency. What do you think, Caleb?
No, I agree. I think that we wanted to see something from Sadi as the year ended, right? I felt that it was like this was his last month and a half to really sort of be like, to sort of give us an idea or some sort of hope of this is the guy to keep us going. And he never was going to get sacked, I don't think. We're cheap. We're not going to try and pay that contract to some other coach. You know what I'm saying? That was never going to happen. However, we needed to see something from Sadi that showed us, hey, this guy can get this team some consistency in terms of results, consistency in effort. Because it's one thing to get results, but it's also another thing to continually see your team put up an effort in games where we saw in some games they just didn't care. It just seemed like they just didn't care. They couldn't care less about what happened in the game. And I think we're starting to see a really motivated side. I mean, this is the hungriest I've seen this team all year. And not just this derby. I'm talking about the 3 games prior. Like, we're hungry. We're hungry, it seems like. And it seems like there's some buy-in as well. So absolutely, Sadi has to stay around. And can he get us to that top 4? Even with a little bit of the injury problem that we had. Remember, when Romagnoli went down, we were thinking, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Saxon got hurt. All these different things started popping up, but we still got results. And a credit to that is a deeper roster than we've ever had. And you got to give some credit to Sadi.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think it's important to be fair about the way we look at it, and we can criticize him when needed, but you got to be fair and give him the praise when it's due. And there's no reason to think we can't be in this top four race at this point. And I was ready to write us off before, but I think the other piece to note is just performances of the other sides, right? And that's also what helps keep us in this. I mean, Napoli is in an absolute dumpster fire right now. For those that didn't see, you've got Osimhen, speaking and posting Instagram stories, completely berating the agent of Kvaratskhelia, the two top players on this team, kind of maybe indirectly going at each other, or at least going at each other's agents. And obviously the performances on the pitch for that side have not been good. And so um, that helps for sure. I mean, you're looking at the teams ahead of us in the table: Fiorentina, Bologna, Atalanta. I'll say for me, I think Fiorentina and Bologna will start to slide. Atalanta has shown year in and year out the last 5+ years that they're a side to contend with. So I think it'll be between us and Atalanta. And I will say this, because we do have Napoli match looming. Like, at the end of the day, they still have a couple world class players on their team, and I think at some point, they're going to figure something out. So, it'll be an interesting season, but it starts with what we have deemed as a must win. Talked about how big this group of 4 matches was. It needed to be 4 wins out of 4. Lecce is the final one there before. We're playing Inter in a Supercoppa. We've got Napoli, Atalanta, so a couple tough ones that we don't know what's going to happen. So we've got to take all 3 against Lecce this Sunday. This is awesome. It always feels good to beat Roma. Always fun to celebrate with Laziali. Couldn't be a better time. A day after Lazio celebrated their 124th birthday. So good time to be a Laziale. Let's keep it moving forward. Nothing but good vibes. Please follow us. We love the support, love the comments flowing in. Subscribe to this podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media: Twitter, TikTok, you name it, Instagram. And if you want to just listen to the podcast, we are on all audio formats. Please share it with your friends. Help us grow. All the Laziali out there, we appreciate you. We love you. And sempre forza Lazio.